Hello, welcome to Joining Multiple Slabs with Mrs. Sudek. First thing you're going to need to do is get a piece of clay, give it a good wedge. Next, we're going to be rolling slabs today using the slab roller instead of getting out all of the equipment to hand roll slabs. So once you have your clay wedged, you're going to come over to the slab roller. The way the slab roller works is you will lay your clay on the slab roller. It has a mat. Make sure that this mat is lifted up and you put your clay between the piece of canvas and the mat that goes on top. So it's sandwiched in between. One thing I like to do before I start rolling is just use my hand, kind of pound it down a little bit. It makes it easier to roll. You could also do that with a rolling pin if you wanted. Once you do that, you're going to go ahead and take this mat and roll it down. You want to make sure that your clay is all the way here at the very edge of the blanket. Okay, so I'm going to crank it all the way so it doesn't crank anymore. I'm going to roll it all the way back, and I'm going to lift this up, and I have a nice flat piece of clay. Perfect. All right, I have my slab. Now you want to work on a mat back at your table. Once you've rolled your slab out, you're going to find in the center of your table some templates. This is a 3" by 3" square. You're just going to want to go ahead and place it on your slab. I wouldn't place it right in the center because you can actually make more slabs out of this. So place it somewhere towards the edge. Use your potter's needle to just lightly trace around. And then take your fettling knife or your clay knife and go ahead and cut out your slab. We are making a slab box. This is how you join slabs together. This is going to be the bottom of our box. So now you have the base, and you can go ahead and just set this aside. Now we need to make the sides of our box. In order to do that, we need to measure as we go. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to measure our first side. It's obviously going to be 3 inches, same as when we first start cutting. So you can use this template to make your next side. So go ahead and do that now using any spare extra clay that you have. If you do not have any extra clay, you're going to have to roll yourself another slab. So you're going to do the same thing. You're going to go ahead and cut that out. All right, now I have the base and I have side 1. Before we join them together, we're going to cut out the side for side 2 so that we can join at a corner and it's more stable. This is where things start to get a little bit more complicated, okay? Because we just added extra width to our box, this template is no longer going to fit. So if you made a 3 by 3 inch square, you aren't going to have it long enough. So what you need to do now is go ahead and just have somebody hold this up while somebody else measures. Okay? Now you're going to want to measure from here to here, and that is going to be the measurement for the length of your next square. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and measure. This is where having another person comes in handy. Okay, so now my slab is going to be 3.5 inches long, and it will remain 3 inches tall, so everywhere is the same height. Notice that I did roll myself a new slab. If you don't have enough from the first slab you rolled, you'll have to do that. The next thing I'm going to do is I measured, so I know that I need to create a slab that's 3.5 by 3. So you could create a template and then trace it, or I'm just going to trace mine onto the clay using the ruler. So there I'm going to 3.5, and then I'm going to go up 3 inches so it's all the same height. I'll connect at the top. Now I know that that second slab is going to be the correct dimensions. Same thing as I did before. I'm going to use my ruler this time because I don't have a template. I'm just going to cut out to make sure that I have nice straight lines. Now ready to join slabs 1 and 2 to the bottom of my box. I noticed that I labeled everything. This is so I don't get confused as to what is what. Okay, I would highly recommend doing this as you work. So some things you need for joining, of course, my serrated rib, slip, a brush for the slip, and I like a wooden modeling tool for blending. So first thing I'm going to do is join slab 1 to my base. In order to do that, I need to scratch both faces where I'm joining. So the edge and then the edge right here. Okay, when I do this, make sure that when I am joining together, I am joining it like this and not putting the slab on top. That's a no, that's a yes. So I'm joining it to the bottom area. Okay. We're going to apply slip to both pieces as always. There, don't be stingy with it. And then you're going to go ahead and press together. Before you add slab number 2, I would take your modeling tool and blend this seam right here just so that it's joined and doesn't flop over. You can blend on the edge there and blend on this edge. Until we put that corner piece on, it is somewhat fragile. Okay. My next step is taking slab number 2. We're going to join them to the corner and to the bottom. Okay. You can see that I have some overhang here where there was a little bit of the measuring wasn't perfect. So to take care of that, if I just lay it down, I can just cut that sliver off to make sure that it fits perfectly right up against my box, and now I'm good. So I'm going to do the same thing, making sure I'm scratching everywhere where things are joining. So I'm going to scratch this edge, I'm going to scratch the bottom, I'm going to scratch the edge in which I'm joining, and I'm going to scratch that edge here, making sure I'm going right up against it. Applying slip everywhere again. Slip, 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 slip. I'm going to press my slab right up against. At this point in the game, you want to have somebody from your group go ahead and grab their board off of their shelf and a paper towel, because we're going to move our box onto that for drying purposes and so it doesn't suction cup itself to anything. Oh, that happens, just push everything back together. Now it's time to do some blending so things stay joined. You can see this seam right here where I joined the outside corner. You're going to want to go ahead and either using your finger or your wooden modeling tool, you're going to go ahead and very carefully blend that. You're going to want to blend right here as well, where everything, anywhere where you joined, you're going to want to blend. So the inside corner here is going to need blended, as well with the bottom insides. And once your box would get a little bit more leather hard, we would flip it upside down. I'm going to show you, but don't do this. Once it got firmer, we'd flip it upside down and blend all of those areas. But that's not until things get about leather hard. The box has a nice corner. We're going to go ahead and repeat this step with this edge here and this edge here. Remembering as we go to make sure you're measuring so you know what size to make your slabs. Once you have that slab joined, then you can go ahead and join this slab again by measuring to make sure you get the correct measurements. I'm going to go into time-lapse mode here, but take your time getting those other two sides on. I measured, and now I am making side 3, attaching, scratching, slipping, blending it in. Now I'm going to go ahead and make side 4, again, making sure that I measure so that I have the right dimensions. Had a little bit of overhang there that I had to cut off, that's okay. Now I'm going to scratch, slip, blend everything together. All right, so I've created and joined all 4 slabs to my bottom. A couple things to think about during the process is if you have areas of weakness where you joined slabs together and if they keep cracking or breaking, a good way to solve that problem is by just reinforcing with a small coil. So if you just use your hands and roll a small snake-like piece of clay, this is a good solution. If you're finding that that seam is really weak, you can always just take a small coil, scratch and slip around on your seam, scratch the coil. Remember, always, even if it's a small piece, just like this little coil for reinforcement, you have to scratch and slip it on. Right? Just by adding this little piece of clay here and then blending it in, you can go ahead and reinforce that area. Of course, you'd want it to be blended in, not look like that. Another thing to think about that we're not going to do for this demo is if you decide to make something that requires multiple slabs, and it doesn't have to be a square box. Would be lots of different options, but the other thing would be to think about making a lid. We're not going to do that for this demo, but you would make a lid the same way you would make anything else. You would just measure from side to side and side to side to find out what your measurements are, and you could create a lid that would fit onto this box. Okay, but for this demo, I just want you to create joining and working with multiple slabs, joining 4 sides and a base.